In 2028, Eastern Europe is caught in a vast fire known as the Baltic firestorm. Not only the continent faces massive destruction, but also pollution and a global temperature rise in the aftermath that led to a major sea level rise. In 2031, the Earth begins experiencing an increasingly severe extreme climate. Environmental degradation starts forming violent hurricanes. The first Category 6 hurricane, Hurricane Zeta, appears on October 9, 2033. The climate begins to threaten the existence of human civilization. Global shortages of food and fuel take place, and the Second Great Depression starts on January 11, 2034. On May 2035, Germany's government collapses and the European Union is disbanded, leaving the continent in turmoil. Many countries close their borders during the crisis, and as more governments collapse, over 1.2 billion people become displaced with no nation to call home. Those alienated people join together, creating fleets and begin to seek safe harbor. Those people came to be known as the Non-Patriated, or NOPADs for short. By 2037, the United States and Russia are the only remaining superpowers as humanity begins adapting to the new world. Technological breakthroughs in energy and desert irrigation begin to stabilize, while some coastal cities became livable again due to the hydraulic levees and seawalls. National borders are reopened and society begins to rebuild. But many NOPADs reject calls to rejoin the countries of the old world, having created their own identity unbound with any national loyalty. As a result, NOPADs become a permanent fixture in all areas of global decision-making. Many countries, including the United States, begin discriminating NOPAD groups as illegal smugglers, criminals and pirates. In response, NOPADs begin forming task forces, armed groups of ex-military specialists from around the world to defend themselves when necessary. To overcome the extreme climate, Canada and the United States start Operation Steadfast Refuge. They produce a satellite known as the Shearwater 1, a terraforming satellite capable of controlling weather patterns to repair inhabitable lands that were destroyed by hurricanes. In the year 2040, during the first attempt to remove a hurricane, the Shearwater encouraged an error and accidentally released an EMP over the atmosphere, causing a massive shutdown of global energy supplies. After the blast, a space debris storm takes place in Earth's super atmosphere that causes a Kessler effect, causing over 70% of orbiting satellites to crash into the planet. The planet faces a global blackout. Communication grids are destroyed, air travel is disrupted, supply lines are halted, and the economy goes crazy. Over 100,000 people are claimed to have died as a result of the blackout. In the aftermath, military surveillance has become almost impossible, and the United States and Russia blame each other for causing the blackout. Others believe that NOPADs may have been responsible, possibly desiring to create an anarchy. The two superpowers begin a shadow war to secure vital resources. Attempting to avoid declaring a full-scale war, both sides begin fleeting NOPADs task forces as proxies in their conflicts, promising NOPADs access to their resources in return. Those conflicts continue to escalate in scale, and by 2042, open global war becomes inevitable. The remaining unaligned NOPADs are forced to pick sides. By 2041, the US and Russia begin to launch new spy satellites to replace ones lost during the blackout. But to their surprise, NOPADs hijacked a majority of the satellites. As a result, United States and Russia start to launch a new type of spy satellites. Those satellites have no network capability. Instead, they will fly over hostile territory and gather information. Then, the revelatory crash, allowing ground forces to manually recover their data drives. The areas these satellites crash became known as hazard zones, while NOPAD forces trying their best to steal data drives. Those data drives with intelligence become valuable goods for trading among the dark market, and military intel becomes a real currency. While most NOPADs simply sell them for money, one of them, named Oz, sees the opportunity to change the world. On September 12, 2041, in Doha, Qatar, journalist Kaivan Bashir is contacted by an anonymous source claiming to be Oz, who is the commander of the largest organized NOPAD task force. Bashir's home is raided by Qatari police shortly after being contacted, escaping the police under the cover of sandstorm. Bashir notices the NOPAD emblem hidden in the multiply LED billboards around the city. Following the trail of the emblems, Bashir reaches the catacombs below the city abandoned soccer stadium and meets the NOPAD specialist Piotr Gustovsky, who shows Bashir an escape route out of the city. Bashir arrives at the safe house of a NOPAD task force in Alang, India on November 1st, 2041 and joins them. Later that evening, the group attacks the ship breaking yard in Alang. Headed by Navin Rao, the ship escapes the port and the army under the cover of heavy storm nicknamed the Copperfield by the task force. The Copperfield would proceed to haul supplies between NOPAD's groups in the Indian Sea for the next several months following remote orders from Oz, but begins transporting refugees in early 2042. One such refugee mission results in a skirmish with the Singaporean Port Authority at Brandy Island in February 2042. The Copperfield is nearly captured before being rescued by a large NOPAD flotilla, which drives the SPA away. By early May 2042, specialist Ji-Soon Park had infiltrated Daesung Electronics in South Korea under the orders of Oz himself. On May 8, he causes an explosion at Daesung headquarters, steals data and reaches the Copperfield. In late June, Oz illegally buys weapons from Russians and takes it to their destination, Kourou, French Guiana, to head them off to a local militia there. The exchange is interrupted by an attack of United States soldiers. Some of the members of the task force, including Bashir, Rao and Maria Flak, escaped on a different ship bound to the Russian-controlled Cheftaya Neft oil facility in Queen Mounland, Antarctica. Shortly after arriving, the NOPADs discovered that Russia has begun refusing to give oil to NOPAD ships who do not swear loyalty to the nation. Oz task force, of course, refuses to swear the loyalty and remains trapped. On August 14, 2042, the MFS-04 Exodus, under the command of Captain Kimball Graves of Oz's NOPAD's fleet, arrives with the rescue mission. Russians at first think it's American ship, so they open fire, but Exodus manages to pick up Oz task force and departs. On October 10th, the Exodus is en route to Sierra Leone, but Oz reroutes it to London, England. There, Captain Graves enters the flooded city alone to meet a contact with information valuable to Oz. American Marine Clayton Pekovsky, a former squadmate of Greaves, interrupts the handoff, killing the contact but being injured in the process. Greaves recovers the contact's briefcase and brings Pekovsky back to the Exodus for medical treatment as prisoner. Oz directs the Exodus to the Mediterranean Sea, where three MV-38 corridors will pick up the briefcase. Pekovsky warns Greaves that Oz will use the information in the briefcase to start another global war, which Graves discards. However, Rao accesses the briefcase contents against Greaves' wishes and discovers that it contains coordinates for the crash site of Shearwater 1, which will fall to Earth in 36 hours. Realizing that Oz intends to sell that information to Russians and force a conflict with the Americans, Greaves decides to turn against Oz and stop his plans, so he sails the Exodus into an approaching Category 5 storm to escape. Condors open fire on the ship, but when it enters the storm, the Condors collide with each other. One of Oz's soldiers locates Greaves' son Omar and takes him hostage to force Greaves to hand over the intel. Bashir, having witnessed the kidnapping, follows the soldier and encounters Pekovsky handcuffed. Pekovsky convinces Bashir that he wants to help, and Bashir uncuffs the Marine, who chases after the soldier and Omar. Cornered after attempting to shoot down the remaining Condor with a missile launcher, Greaves is shown his son held at gunpoint. With Omar's life at risk, Greaves hands the briefcase to Oz's soldier, but Oz orders to kill Omar anyway. However, Pekovsky arrives and shoots him, saving Omar, but attracting the attention of the Condor, which fires on Pekovsky and kills him. Hiding Omar behind a shipping container, Greaves recovers the missile launcher and shoots down the Condor. In the aftermath of the attack, Greaves discovers that the soldier had managed to send the coordinates to Oz before dying. Moved by Pakowski's sacrifice, Greaves directs the Exodus to the crash coordinates in Doha and puts out a call to any listening No-Pats to join him in fight. Since the massive open war is inevitable, No-Pats must choose sides in order to survive. And that's the background of the story in Battlefield 2042. Since the game is strictly multiplayer, it does not provide any storyline, just the battle scenarios that can go both ways depending on players. And so far, this is all that happened in Battlefield Modern and Future Warfare storyline, containing Battlefield 2, 3, 4 and Battlefield 2142.